The flight lands before sunrise, and the city wears a hush that only the rich mistake for peace. He steps from the car without alerting the staff, craving the smug thrill of catching his empire off guard. The mansion's lights are low, the marble cold, the corridors stretched like a lie. On a monitor in the security room, a grainy feed shows his maid moving through the kitchen with measured purpose, stacking steaming containers in neat ranks, a ritual repeated with military calm. Above the hum of appliances, a guard's chuckle curdles into a slur in the visitor log, inked like a stain that never dries. The millionaire's jaw tightens. He came home early to test loyalty. Instead, he has stumbled into a secret that will break him open. He built his fortune in silence. Algorithms, acquisitions, champagne toasts in cities where he learned to watch people through glass. Home was a museum of victories, framed headlines, a gallery of grinning acquaintances, the kind of kitchen that photographs well and feeds almost no one. The maid, Layla, was part of the house the way light is part of a morning, present, necessary, overlooked. She arrived before dawn, endured the gate's scanner that stalled longer for her than for anyone else, lowered her eyes at neighbors who tightened their grips on handbags, and scrubbed the same racist word off the service door each Monday with a ferocity learned from surviving. He'd noticed the results, never the effort, the floors that whispered, the vases reborn from dust, the fridge that replenished itself like a polite miracle. In his calendar, she was a line item. In the neighborhood, she was a perimeter test, where decency ended and something older began. Tonight he returned unannounced, sleeves rolled to an idea of control. In the security room, the monitors blinked like indifferent stars. He heard the guard at the gate rewrite a visitor's name to something uglier, then laugh at his own cruelty. A ledger of incidents sat beneath the desk, dates and small humiliations cataloged like routine maintenance. He flipped a page and saw Layla's name threaded through the margins. Always there, always quiet. And now, on the kitchen feed, she moved with intent, lifting pots big enough for a festival, ladling meals into boxes labeled in careful, looping handwriting. Curiosity shaded to suspicion, and then to a rising, unnameable alarm. He drifted down the back staircase, hidden by the architecture built for discretion. From the doorway, he watched Layla count coins into a tin, then slide folded notes into certain containers. Addresses, perhaps. Phone numbers. A stamp that resembled an official seal. She checked a printed list, paused at the service entrance, and opened the door not to a client but to a procession. Janitors, night guards from other streets, a hospital cleaner whose shoes still carried the chemical smell of midnight shifts. The guard at his own gate muttered that old word to a boy no older than 15, then waved the wealthy cars through as if civility were a toll. Layla met each person's eyes with the steadiness of a lighthouse. Containers changed hands. Brief, grateful nods replaced speech. When a neighbor's driver complained that this street isn't for them, Layla pointed to a laminated paper taped discreetly by the door, a permit of some sort, an authorization he didn't recognize. The millionaire felt his suspicion falter. On the refrigerator hung a photograph he had walked past 100 times. His late mother ladling soup beneath a banner from a long dormant foundation he'd let drift into paperwork limbo. The logo on Layla's permits matched it exactly. At the gate, the procession slowed when a patrol car rolled to the curb. An officer stepped out with the weariness of someone used to being obeyed and the confidence of someone who knows whom the street is designed to serve. He questioned the boy, not the sneering driver idling in the lane. The guard supplied the familiar poison, and the air thinned around the teenager's fear. Layla moved, not fast but direct, unfolding documents from a plastic sleeve, food safety clearance, a neighborhood association acknowledgement, a letterhead bearing the half-forgotten name of the millionaire's mother's kitchen program. In the patrol car's dash lights, the paper glowed like a small, stubborn moon. The officer hesitated. The neighbor's driver fell silent. The boy steadied. From the shadow of a hedge, the millionaire stepped forward just enough to see what he had refused to see. A quiet network held together by Layla's hands. Permits she'd revived from a dead foundation, A route mapped through a city that pretended not to notice. Every container was a ledger entry in a different economy, one measured in dignity. His eyes burned with a grief that surprised him, not for money lost, but for time unattended. What his maid did next was not dramatic. It was fearless. She held the line until the officer nodded and left. When the last container was gone and the gate finally closed, the house seemed to exhale. Layla cleaned the counters with the same rhythm she used for everything, efficient, resolute, unself-conscious. The millionaire read the laminated permit in his own name, the faded signature of his mother beside it like a hand reaching across a decade. Layla had resurrected a program he had inherited and abandoned, threaded it through modern rules and protected it with spotless compliance, because compliance is a shield the poor are forced to carry. He understood then how racism functions in neighborhoods like his, not always as spectacle, but as ambient weather, slurs in logbooks, delays at scanners, suspicion calibrated to skin. He had built a life above the storm line and called it merit. She had walked through rain and called it a workday. In the days that followed, the gate's scanner was recalibrated. The guard's jokes ended with his employment. The ledger of incidents became a record of reforms. Deliveries rerouted to the main entrance, ID checks applied equally, the service door repainted, and its weekly scrubbing retired. The foundation returned to life with an accountant, a lawyer, and a line item that would not be forgotten. Layla declined titles and plaques, choosing instead an extra fridge and predictable schedules. The boy at the gate enrolled in evening classes, funded by what used to be decorative philanthropy. The millionaire learned to arrive, announced. He learned to stand where the wind hits first. And on certain nights, when the street's wealth flickers like unreliable electricity, the kitchen brightens, the containers line up, and the house finally fulfills its promise, not as a monument, but as a shelter. If a home can be measured by whose dignity it protects at its borders, what does your street say about you?